Evening. Here to start the Monday, September 18th meeting of the City of Rollingwood Utility Commission, beginning with the roll call, starting to my left.
Chris Kirkton.
Clark Wilson.
Jonathan Miller.
Walter Rollison. Christopher Meekin.
Elizabeth Bray.
Thank you. Moving on to public comments. Were there any folks signed up for public comments?
There are folks signed up, but I believe they're all the utility appeals.
Okay. Gotcha.
Is that correct? Nobody wants to, okay.
Moving on to the consent agenda, the first and only item is discussion and possible action on the May 2nd, 2023 Utility Commission meeting. This is to adopt the minutes, right? Usually it says that, but in any case.
It should say the minutes of the
Yeah.
meeting. Yeah.
That's all right. So this is for the minutes, which are included in the packet. Any discussion, or are we good to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve,
Second.
seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, all abstaining. Perfect. Moving on to the regular agenda, the first item is discussion and possible action on the utility appeal for 4828 Timberline Drive. And I think we're just going to start each one of these with some comments from the administration, and then you guys will have as much time as needed.
4828 Timberline Drive, it was a high water consumption of 129,000 gallons. When I was doing the readings for the water bill, I saw the high usage, so I created a service order to confirm on the readings or any possible water leaks, meaning constant meter movement. So the guys went out there. I did go with them just so I can go see. And they did take a 5-gallon bucket and they turned on the water hose bib just to see if it would register. And it was registering at the time. It filled up the 5-gallon and registered the 5 gallons. So we didn't see constant meter movement at the time, possible water leak. Everybody was at home, so he kept asking his wife and family to turn off the water just to make sure that the meter would stop. And it did at one point. That was the only thing that, just to make sure that the meter was working properly. They were not there. They did have a dog sitter, so when the first time that the Public Works went out there, they did confirm with, they talked to a dog sitter and explained that it could be a possible water leak because it showed constant meter movement at that time.
Okay. Great. Any questions right now, and then we'll. Perfect. Thank you. You guys are. Yeah, absolutely.
We're neighbors.
Okay.
We have the same exact problem.
Okay.
But basically, do you have some?
You got it.
Oh yeah,
There.
please open the microphone.
I know how you feel.
Ryan's gonna kind of be my support too.
Okay.
'Cause we have the same problem. But basically, we did not have a leak. They came out and checked it. The problem resolved on its own and went back to normal usage. And we have our little, do y'all have our?
Yeah, we have her.
Yeah, we have.
So we had people come out and service our sprinklers that put them in last year. There was nothing going on there. We just don't understand why this happened, basically. And for it to be so high, and we don't have a pool, and we don't have any flooding outside or inside our house, and haven't. So.
Yeah, can I stand up there?
Please.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. No, I was out there when the city came out, and we didn't have any movement on ours, but
Can we do one house at a time?
Is that what you?
Sure. Can I just say this one thing? We live next door, and it's the same month, and we both had 3x our largest bill ever, and we've been residents.
That's fine, but you got to be at the microphone, and B, can we do one?
The
house
microphone
at
is
a
just so
time?
it gets recorded more clearly as far as.
Okay, well, I guess that's basically.
Okay.
We're just trying to figure out what's going on and why our bill went up so high, and that's what I have.
So,
And we had no leak. So
Okay.
we never fixed anything. It just went back to normal. So that doesn't, you know.
So what I wanted to just, and I meant to actually do this before, because one thing is to just understand what this commission has in its power to do, right? As far as what we can do, kind of what's in the policy that we have for these types of appeals, right? And so I think it's important that we all, as a commission, get reminded what we agreed to in the policy. One, around, there's some guidelines around timing, and then there's some guidelines around remedies, right? And what we need in order to see, in order to provide potential remedies, which would be obviously reduction in cost or some adjustment to a bill based on, you know, evidence that is provided. And so one of the things that was discussed, in policy is, right now it's a 6-month backward looking, right? We say you have within 6 months of understanding an issue with your bill, you can come talk to the committee. Is there also a limitation on the number of months that can be, it's up to 3 months in policy within that 6-month period. So you come within 6 months, you can do the back 3, you can come again, all right, for a different 3-month period. But the idea is that we're not dealing, that there's not a repeat, right? We're looking at water leaks that get fixed and moved on, and the bills get adjusted as necessary and move on from there. As none of us are kind of in, other than working for the utility commission, kind of in the water, right, water utility experts. So we tried to build some guidelines around that. And then from a remedies perspective, the cost adjustments that are permitted are the wholesale costs plus, basically plus 10%, which is the kind of the administrative overage, right? So costs can be adjusted down. The way that the water bills now, right, there are tiers for usage. And so obviously when you have an issue with a leak and there is excessive usage, those last tens of thousands of gallons of water cost significantly more than the first 1,000 gallons of water. So your bill becomes much higher. We understand that when we're looking at a leak. The idea of adjusting to wholesale removes all of those steps, which are incentivizing people to be more conscious about their water usage, right? So when the case where there's a leak, obviously that wasn't under anyone's control, and so the idea is let's at least remove some of that increased pricing, and we move to wholesale plus 10%. So, and again, anyone can correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is we can go back 6 months, we can look up to 3 months, and we can adjust wholesale plus 10% for those maximum 3 months period. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Sharon, question? Was the meter checked?
We did not send it to go get tested, no.
We did the 5-gallon test.
That's all we did, was a 5-gallon test.
Didn't we used to do that? Yeah, didn't we used to do meter checks when?
It is offered, if the meter comes back that it tests that it's a good meter, then the resident is responsible for paying for that.
Right. And we didn't do that here.
Well, we didn't do that, no, sir.
Okay. Thank you. I'm not a sir, I'm a
Sure.
person. Thank you.
Elizabeth.
Am I reading this correctly that you guys also had a decent, not this high, but a decent spike in September of last year?
Okay.
That was what was attached on page 8 in the packet?
That does show
September, 80,000 gallons. Yes.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, were you aware of that? Did any investigation happen then? I'm trying to help, ascertain where an issue might be if a leak has not yet been detected or
Right.
anything.
Right. Yeah, I mean. Was that the one I called you about at the time? How much was that? 'Cause I did have to call one time, but you went back and adjusted.
That must have been Sharon, because I still wasn't here for that one.
Okay,
So
okay,
maybe
somebody
she-
did adjust it, but I didn't. Yeah, I remember like $1,000 bill, not like a $3,000 bill.
Right, no,
Right.
I can see that it's
Yeah.
not the same,
Right,
but
right.
it's still an unusual spike, and
Right.
oftentimes those things are related within months of each other, and so I was just wondering if there was any information that you had as to why that happened then.
No, I don't.
To help explain why this happened now.
I don't, sorry.
I've had the same thing. I know exactly. You're like, I don't know. It's just a lot of money.
Yeah.
A question on this service order that's in here from July 7th, where it notes that the meter is still spinning.
Yeah.
But because we weren't able to speak, we weren't sure if everything is off and the meter was still spinning, or he was looking at it, the meter's spinning, which meant a wash could be running or something to that effect. We just
Correct.
didn't know because there was no one to talk to at the time. Okay.
Correct, yes. And that's why when we went the second time, that's when we took that 5-gallon bucket.
Right.
And just to see if the meter would register those 5 gallons, which it did,
Okay.
so.
But
The
we
readings
haven't.
are consistent as well.
Okay. And then, I'm sorry, but we said following this particular, the months in question, usage has returned to.
It was just 1 month.
Right, so it returned to normal level after
Correct.
that month. Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
The policy is to go to wholesale as if there was a leak and it was fixed.
Yeah. So generally, the documentation of the fix is kind of the bookend
Right.
on the issue, saying so now we've put some time frame around whatever issue was causing the high water usage. It's now been addressed, and then we go ahead and adjust.
Okay, so we don't need that. We don't need a.
Is it a requirement to
Yeah.
have?
So if staff was gonna adjust it without bringing it to the utility commission, we would require proof of leak.
But we don't need
We
that?
don't have that, that's why it comes here for
Discussion.
further review.
Okay.
Because it's
Cool.
not
There
explained.
was,
So the one in September, there was proof of leak at the
there was
adjustments?
no bill
There was
adjustment
no bill adjustment.
Oh, okay, okay.
in that time.
for the September one, and so I did not offer a bill adjustment because there was no water leak.
And you can't.
Right.
But I guess, but you're saying we can determine.
I'm asking.
So the question is, it can come to us, and we can determine whether or not to make an adjustment without proof of leak, of a repair, other than what we would have is normal, usage
Right.
following
Mhm.
the month in question.
Yeah, if there was proof, we could have done that in-house, but we are not able to.
And we're not routinely checking meters that.
When I do the,
No, I mean like send them out to be tested. In the old days, we did that.
to send them out to be tested, no.
How much does that cost?
I'm not sure. Sometimes 75 to 100. We've recently been said to, if it comes back that it was working, that the resident would have to pay for that. And I think we've offered it in some cases. I don't know if we offered it in this one. Sometimes it was declined. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Would you, are you leaning towards saying let's have the meter tested and address this, or not? Or,
I'm just.
I'm
I'm
curious.
asking. I thought the rule was we had to have a leak in the meter
Okay.
tested. I thought that was the rule, and that's their rule, but not our rule. Or the meter testing was an accommodation that we used to do that we don't do anymore.
And I
Well,
don't know, in my opinion, I don't think it's necessary, only because the reading is consistent.
with the,
But yes, we
bucket
can
test.
send it off just to confirm, but I mean, the consumption went back down,
yeah.
so.
So I guess so we have a bucket test,
Mhm.
and then we have return to normal usage. So if we tested it, it came back, the assumption is that it would come back working, technically. But even with that information, we can still make a determination of what we want to do to address this particular month. Anyone have any thoughts?
Is it kind of like, it's kind of interesting though that we're next door neighbors and it happened the exact same month,
Yeah.
and in
Well,
spite
sort of.
of
It
that
sounds that way, but
Sort
we've
of.
been doing this a long time.
And it wasn't the exact same, there was actually some slightly varied fluctuations. The highest point was that month, but your fluctuations are a different pattern.
After sitting through a lot of these, the meter only spins when water, I mean, it's a
Right.
mechanical meter, so, and it came into your land, it just did, and we're kinda like, okay. But I know, I can completely understand you're saying,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the vast majority of the time, the meters that are broken are meters that aren't spinning. So actually,
right, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
people aren't paying.
It's the other way, I've had that too.
Yeah.
That tends to be
Right.
I was like, can I have this meter forever?
right.
Okay.
So I'm just curious, I'm reading these, there's 2 work orders attached to this, and the second one says that they found a leak in the backyard. I just,
According to
Oh, that was just a cap on the drip, like on a little drip system that runs for like, it wasn't, I mean, we just put the new cap on it.
okay. So it wasn't constantly running, it was only running?
No.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
just like in the flower beds.
Wait, I'm not clear. You put a cap on when you discovered it.
Yeah, that's the only thing we could find. We were like,
Right.
where could anything, when it was watering that day, I was like, oh, it just doesn't, I mean, but it was still like barely coming out.
Right. But did you see whether or not it comes out on a non-watering day? Like, was it coming out for
No.
a month?
No, no. It was just when our sprinkler system's turned on and we have that Rancho app that tells you when you're watering and when it turns off and when it comes back on.
Right.
Joe, I need to get those picked. Don't want that. So that's,
And,
I've been down this rodeo myself.
we
what'd you
have-
say?
I've been down this rodeo myself.
Well, I just, yeah, I don't really know answers.
So the 2,800 and change bill, that is the current bill, and what would the adjustment, again, it's important, I think, just the numbers, what would be if we were to adjust the wholesale 10%? I'm just curious as to what the new,
That would be $1,878.59.
So that's, the new bill would be, if we charged a wholesale for
That would-
basically 68,000 gallons.
That would be her adjustment because, for the 4828 Timberline.
Yeah.
And that would
Oh,
just be
48,
adjustments that
28.
would be paid the remainder.
Right.
Could it have anything to do with any of the construction? I mean, the house was torn down behind us.
Yeah.
We do, I mean, I don't know, could there have been air in the line?
I would say it could be anything, it could be usage. Unfortunately, we only, we see what we've seen. We've had issues in the city where, construction folks are using water they're not supposed to be using, and we found out about
Yeah, if
those
you're not
issues.
around, they hook up to your hose.
Yeah, we've
Oh,
seen
okay.
people steal
Yeah.
water. I mean, that
Okay.
has happened.
Yeah.
And so it's not unheard of.
Do they have access to your backyard?
I mean, the fence, but I mean, I guess they just tore the house down behind. I mean, I
Yeah.
wouldn't say access, but I guess they could climb the fence.
That would be
Or would it be like,
probably not a
Yeah.
great effective tool of
Usually
water
they're-
stealing if you have to climb
Yeah.
the fence.
Well, again, I mean, I might as well make a motion to see what the support is, unless.
I
Yeah,
have one
please,
other
go ahead.
question, because, precedent is something that should be considered because there have been many appeals before, there will be many appeals that come, and we need to handle them consistently. I know that we had one that was, just in our last May meeting where there was a water leak. I've been in others where there were not anything found. And correct me if I'm wrong, to my knowledge, we sadly have not given an adjustment on ones where leaks have not been found in the time that I've been sitting on the commission. And so I just wanna bring that to this discussion to say, we have to be cognizant of that from past, present, and future.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess what has been, as far as evidence in this case, what we have here is, there's a high bill, we have potentially something that was discovered that may have adjusted it, the bill has gone back down, we're not sure what could have caused it, and they've asked for some relief. I mean, that's kind of where we are. So whether or not, again, we're all convinced that this is something that we would normally adjust the price for or not, We're trying to keep precedent, to be consistent each time, but again, at the end of the day, this is a forum that allows people to come and kind of explain what's going on. But I still leave it to you all to kind of decide how you want to address it. And a motion could not be supported, and that's how we could go forward, or we could. I generally give some weight to people that spend the time to come down and talk to us.
Absolutely.
Versus those that don't. And I don't know, maybe swear us behind the back. So, any thoughts?
We had one case with a high bill that was like this without a leak. We let it, we passed on it for a few months to see if it stayed down.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. I was thinking the most recent one where.
We put it in abeyance and just waited to see if it stayed down. Or we could test the meter, either one.
Well, I feel like the meter's going to come back accurate.
Okay.
I mean, which is what we kind of feel today. We're
They almost always do.
right.
Yeah.
Again, generally it's the other way around.
And they're either broken and they don't move, or they're fine. They don't spin too fast. And houses together, it doesn't matter, because your meter is the sole conduit to your house.
And this is currently unpaid, but I know that it's okay when you have an appeal that's all right. Is your a recommendation to say let's allow 3 months to go by and see if?
No. I'm just remember, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Member.
Okay.
I mean, I was hoping when I asked you if it had been constantly leaking, that was your leak.
Yeah.
That, that I was hoping that would be the answer, but that's where I was kind of leaning. I was like, if we could have a motion that says, we're gonna extend the 6-month period of decision making to say, let's look at the next 2 months, see if another leak comes up.
Yeah.
And then address, because at this stage, our past precedent would tell us if there was no leak detected or remediated, we can't justify doing the bill remediation.
So, and I don't think I think the 6 month is to get them in the
Right,
door.
right.
I think we
Right.
could talk
Ban
about
it
this for the
forever
next
as
10
long as
years,
you're
here with
but
it.
theoretically
Okay.
it would still fall. So, on that, why don't we say, and I would include, I think it's both of these homes are
Well,
us.
I wanna hear
You-
first.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
so in this particular case, for 4828 Timberline, the motion is to wait to review the next 2 months usage from now, not the 2 following July, in order to understand if whatever leak may have been resolved before any adjustment would be considered. Is that?
We do have the 2 months already, because this was from May 23rd to June 23rd was that reading.
I don't think this was July. So May, it's the May, I'm sorry, it's the June.
June bill.
It's the June bill. So we have July
In August.
and August, which are down.
Well, although elevated relative to historical levels. Do you have a feeling for that? Why July and August might be higher than the average month?
I don't.
Okay.
You don't have to answer this if you don't want to. Were you there in June, or were you away?
Yes. We were gone for 1 week. in
Okay.
June. We're gone for 1 week.
I guess, and the question is, is 2 months sufficient, or are we looking for a larger data set? You're saying before we can feel comfortable that levels have normalized.
I mean, as there was still some slight elevation, and, as this is a really unfortunate, extraordinary amount with no explanation, I personally would tend to be on the generous side of timing and give another period of time to see if it normalizes in the September-October bill. I would say that you know, perhaps some payment to the bill should be made, which can be then credited to the account or refunded if there's a remediation. But I don't know the procedure on that.
I think we
haven't done that.
yeah, while under appeal, that specific month would be allowed to be unpaid. The subsequent months would expect to be kept current as those bills come in.
Okay, I'll go out on a limb. Motion to, let's seek 2 more months and then decide.
So there's a motion to require an additional 2 months of water usage, which would then bring us to the November meeting.
We're butting up to winter averaging, so.
But it would be September
Yeah,
and
it'd be fine.
October,
It'd be
right?
fine.
Or August and September.
Yeah, August and September.
Sorry. From a timing perspective, would that get us into the November meeting? We'd have that information? Okay.
We'll have those numbers put on maybe before the first week of November.
Well, we just need September and
Yes.
August, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll have, yes.
Okay.
However,
So that's so the motion is to wait for August and September usage information, which would most likely be reviewed during the November meeting to determine usage as normalized in consideration of a price adjustment.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No one abstained.
We'll see here.
Yes, see you in a couple.
It's worth investigating the current levels.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Because they are elevated.
Okay. Moving on to the next item, which is discussion of possible action on the utility appeal for 4830 Timberline Drive.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for your service. Yeah, 4830 Timberline Drive. We've been there for 7 years. We put in a pool 6 years ago. We've made no changes to landscaping. I've got teenage daughters. They take long showers, but other than that, we have turf in the backyard. Our typical average usage historically has been 21,000 gallons a month, and in June it was 92,000. So that's like five swimming pools, 6, and we didn't refill the pool. The Jobs are next door, 4828. We are down the hill from the Jobs, so between us that would be 230,000 gallons in a month, which is 700 and something a day. The entire month there was no standing water on the street. There were no puddles. There was nothing to indicate that water was being used to that amount. So it feels like air moving through the system, construction, somebody stealing water from construction, but it's an asinine amount of water that we didn't use. I did get a American Leak Detection to come out, and they verified there was no leak. And when the city came out and they did the 5-gallon test, there was no leak. So I don't, I'm not an engineer, I don't have an explanation, but 92,000 was 3 times or close to 3 times what we've ever used in 7 years. So that's why we're appealing. And it happened the exact same month that it happened with the Jobs. So again, that gives, maybe it's a coincidence or not, but part of the reason we're here appealing.
Sure.
Did I hop in front of you?
No, you're
No.
Okay, I'm done. I think I'm done.
Thank you.
It's all right.
And just confirming the 5-gallon
We did
test,
the same
and
thing
it was
with
5 gallons, so
and
it,
it read,
so the
yes.
meter, no necessarily need to send out the meter. Okay. Opening up for questions or comments.
Well,
I do have the 2 months after that June water bill.
Okay.
So for July they had 32,000, then for August 52,000.
Which
high,
Yeah.
yeah.
Both elevated still.
Considering we're in
It was very
Rational.
hot, yes.
well, I mean,
Yeah, we're in, right?
Yeah, that's what's confusing to me because your pattern, although you have the 1 month in common, your pattern's completely different. Because you also had a pretty high month in April. So you had a high month in April, a higher than average month in May. Then June was very high. July was quite high and higher than all of your averages before that. And then August is now high again. So this, over the last 6 months, you've had 4 of them have been high, which is a different pattern.
Yes. I think I did the math, and it was, between our bill and, it would have been 5 gallons a minute, 24/7 for a month, that would be being used between our 2 houses, and
I understand that.
Oh, yeah.
But the point is that your pattern is very different, which I'm trying to understand because we can only answer these individually, and
Mhm.
it is important to understand the proximity and the individual month. But your pattern in general is quite different, which needs to be addressed in your appeal, unless you're only appealing for July.
It's June,
June?
right?
I'm sorry.
June. I am only appealing for June
Okay.
today. That might,
Right. Yeah, you
so
can go back.
just
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
1 month,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah, you can come back.
$1,990 bill, and
Yeah.
we don't use it for the backyard, and there's 4 of us.
The facts are a tad different since you had a leak checked on and
Would y'all like to see a copy of the
We got it.
receipt?
No.
I don't know, we got,
Okay. Cool.
So and I'm sorry, did you say you had a pool? So they checked the pool and they checked the irrigation system and they checked the
Yes.
main line?
It was American Leak Detection, and they run
did
whatever
they do
run.
the interior, because sometimes it's toilets.
The meter was not running when they came out, and then it's
No,
in,
the
it's
leak
in,
detection people, did they check the interior?
they were in the house, but it's in the report, he's
It's
got
only
pictures.
outside,
Yeah.
from what I saw.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's toilets, they don't turn on.
I always wonder where all this water's going. So,
Yeah.
all the time, like I get it.
Yeah, it also, sadly, I went through the same thing. And I had American League come out and they did not find a lake. Then it was a couple months later, I had someone else come out and they found a lake.
I mean, it would have been easy if they found a leak, right? I could have just come here and said that
Yes.
there's our leak.
Yes.
Exactly.
Frankly,
Can you write me a report?
It's
that's-
much
Yes.
easier if you find one.
Well, yeah. So,
Yes.
The patterns are different, but
And pool leaks are really tricky because they are only checking connections and lines, but if there's actually a leak under the pool that's going into the ground, they have a really
You
hard
can't find
time
yeah.
finding that, which is what happened to me.
yeah, and then it's
Because-
autofill and you're trying to figure out how much
Correct, and then it
is
keeps
dumping in
autofilling and you
autofill.
don't know that you have a leak under there because they can't detect that way.
But if that were the case, my usage probably would be a lot more leveled out.
Not necessarily, that was our conundrum too. It was literally like every 3 months, it would do that little spike and it's temperature, it's ground hardness, it's, all the things. I'm trying to help say, I think you might have a pool leak, you should look again.
But this looks like the national debt here.
So did mine.
It's
that's
here.
why we're
This is-
here. That's why
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, do you have an underground tank or an overflow or anything?
Oh, we've got an autofill, but we've got we would see that there's a pipe that runs to the back, the bottom part of our property, and we would see that it would be wet.
Can you
goes
see
down.
when, yeah, can
It
you
doesn't-
see
it
when?
doesn't get wet.
Yeah, it doesn't. Can you see when your autofill, do you have any kind of recording of when it's turning on and
I think
off?
turning off the autofill.
Yeah, like
might-
turn off your autofill for a month and just hand fill it with a hose and see what happens to your water bill.
The pool is actually it's above ground pretty good. Like the ground slopes at the back of the pool's 6 feet out, 6 feet above ground. So
Oh, I see what you're saying. As far
Yeah,
as
so,
seeing
so
more
it's,
in-
I think it would, but, all I know is we got a $2,000 water bill, and I don't feel like we used it, and I paid to get, a leak detection company come out, and they couldn't find one, and the meter wasn't moving when they came, so I'm here talking to y'all. But that,
Completely understand. your
that might be,
frustration.
something we need to do. But I don't
That's
know,
what
I don't
helped
know,
us
who-
find
I
it.
don't, does American Leak Detection, I mean, they feel like they'd be the people.
right?
But he didn't
Yes.
say anything about, like, we need to look at your pool.
Pools are usually the culprit,
Mhm.
like the biggest culprit, and also the hardest to find the leak. And so you can do those sort of troubleshooting things, like an autofill is the worst thing.
Okay, that is
Um,
a good,
I had an autofill issue on a pool and on a pond. It's always the autofill. Turn it off. And just refill as you need to for evaporation with a hose. And then
You'll find out real quick.
and then you'll know if there's a leak.
Possible same motion?
Yeah, I think given the
Consistent?
guidance, I think we can just, pause, right? So, again, it's important that when we have these discussions and the appeal is still in, like, that bill, there's no payment requirement as we say, hey, let's just get a little bit more data, maybe over the next month or so, something else happens, or there's another spike, and we know that it's related to something outside of, or maybe there's a leak that's not being detected, or it just normalizes, and we can say, well, look, there was something odd that month. So I think a similar type motion, where we'll pause, we'll get 2 more months of data, we'll review this in November. If we see consistent usage, then we would be reconsidered for a price adjustment, similar to your neighbor.
okay.
So that's the motion.
Second.
Motion second, and all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? Okay, so.
And the consideration, should I assume that to be, that's two-part question. Should I assume that to be if usage is in a normal range, well below what it was, then the consideration would in fact be, we'd have our bills adjusted, or do we need to come back in? Do I need to come back in
You need
and,
to come back in.
okay,
We just need more data.
okay,
Well, we'll have the data, but we would want to give you for instance, if we looked at the data and it wasn't sufficient, we wouldn't want to just get a letter to say, we saw the data, we didn't give you an opportunity to speak, and we denied your appeal.
Cool. Oh,
So
that's
we want
great.
you to come back in.
And so, and if it does spike, and I do find a leak, then I can appeal the 6-month period,
Absolutely.
which might end up being a,
This is already, the 6-month, this
From
one's in the
claim.
books.
This one's in the bucket.
So we could be talking about this next year, it wouldn't matter.
okay, okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you for the time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And I'll hear from, well, I'll hear from y'all? Yes. Okay, great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next item is discussion and possible action on the utility appeal for 4824 Rollingwood Drive, all 48s.
On this one, it was before my time. I started working here in October of 2023, and it looks like from all the information that I received, it started back in 21 and 22. And then when I started working, some of the paperwork was handed to me. I didn't hear from the Shaws until recently, and it was from 10 months after June of 2021, 22. And so there's really not much I can say on this one, if they investigated or not investigated. There was no information on the water account.
Can we clarify, and there's a lot of history here, which is one of the reasons I brought up the window. What is what months are actually being, what period is being appealed? Is it 2 years, is it a year worth, is it one particular month? I'm just trying, maybe that would be helpful.
Right, so I wanted to point out that on the appeals process summary, it says that these 6-month and 3-month periods are the rules except in extraordinary circumstances. And so I'm claiming the extraordinary circumstances here.
Fair enough.
And so all of these issues have been going on. And just for context, we moved in January of 2020, and we weren't able to get our punch list finished because of pandemic. And so we've been kind of piecing things, like our inspections didn't get completely done. And so we've been piecing things together. And so what I was advised when I was emailing with Carrie Kaler in May of 2022 is that we had to get everything fixed before we could make the appeal, and we don't have everything fixed yet because we have an active leak in our pool. The pool construction company has admitted faults. We had a lawsuit with them, and that's been settled, and we got payment on that. And so now we are trying to get the city of Rollingwood to approve our permit to redo the pool, and that's been in process since February. And so I don't know what to do about timing. I know that, and so what I did do is like, let me put a line in the sand here for August 2021 through November 2022, because there was a pretty clear delineation in our usage for that time period. And we got the first two things, which are a series of leaks in the irrigation system under control, but we had 3 different companies come out and say that they found a leak and that there weren't any other leaks. And then we had a water softener that was just leaking nonstop, and we couldn't get that fixed, and so they actually ended up taking it out. And so we did fix 2 things, but we know that the pool still has a slow leak in it. And so I don't know what the right time is to come in and talk to you guys about it. We don't have the permit yet. We've been going back and forth with the engineers. So it's going to be, it's going to be months before the pool can be replaced. And so this is like an open discussion about what the timing, how I handle this situation given the extraordinary circumstances. So I want credit for having to get the first 2 rounds of things done, but I can't say that the situation is resolved yet because we're still, and we can't empty the pool because even though we have this crack and we know we're going to replace the pool because they said that the collateral damage to our foundation and to the pool equipment would be too bad, so they're recommending that we keep water in the pool. So we're trying to do the right thing,
Yeah.
and I try to give some context in this letter. Like when we moved in, we did solar panels. We have 2 giant rainwater collection tanks. We were going to be like super environmental, and then no one knows how to work on the rainwater collection tanks and get them tied into an irrigation system correctly. But we've been doing our best on all that. So
Thank you
that's the context.
for providing some additional context. I know there's a lot of information in here. So there's a lot of months under consideration here as well, and this is somewhat of an ongoing issue as far as repairs being done, and so it's hard. There's multiple items or multiple issues that were resulting in water usage, and so we have most of these items documented to have been completed except for the pool. Is that
Correct.
correct? Can you remind me, what was the last time an item was fixed? So or maybe it is, how many months has it just been the pool?
So we noticed in November 2022 that our water usage came back down, and so we're like, I think we finally have finished the whack-a-mole issue with the irrigation system.
Okay.
And so I think that was when and that's that lines up when we did our final repair in August of 2022 with Eco Irrigation and Landscaping.
So I'm just it's hard to try to get a baseline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if they fixed it in August, then the bill shouldn't have.
So then it was partially the pool, right?
Right,
So
so
I don't know
when
how to
was the-
separate it for you. Yeah.
Remind me exactly when the pool.
The pool had, I think it's been slowly leaking since it was installed. I mean, that was one of the things on our punch list is that we saw a visible crack on the side of it. So I guess there was a concrete company, it's a class action lawsuit that used the wrong concrete formula in like hundreds of pools across Austin. So it's happening to other places too.
Well, that's that's a separate question that I have, which is, and first of all, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
But my question is, in not wanting to have you as an individual, suffer, extraordinary extra things on top of the issues. There's litigation against the company, but where does that put the city of Rollingwood in that? Because while, you know, you have all the leaks and everything else to give you some remediation on your bill, that just means the city pays for it. And if this is a known builder issue, I would want the builder to be paying for
Right, I mean, there's some discussion as to whether or not, and how do you determine the excess amount of water bill that would be part of your damages, and maybe that would be everything above wholesale plus 10% or whatever. I don't know how you'd have to figure that out again.
Yeah, so
I'm
that's
not
what
an attorney.
that's what my understanding is if I'm still paying wholesale plus 10%, then the city's actually not out. They're just out there potential profit. Is that
Because it pays for all
Yeah, okay.
wastewater and everything.
okay?
We,
So I mean, so I think that the answer for me to tell you what our normal usage is not gonna. It's 12 months from now.
it's not,
But
you don't have a normal.
it. Right.
right,
This-
and so I don't know where to draw the.
Right,
But this
start
is
with-
current,
you have
correct?
brought us something we have never seen before.
Okay.
And that is an active leak that is needed to keep your foundation and your whatever. And so you're still gonna be leaking for a bit.
Yes.
And we've never dealt with that.
Okay.
And where you don't have any, because you built or changed your house, so we don't have any history. And yeah, the rule, Mr. Chairman, get me if I'm right, we've done this rule for, this is how our hands are tied. If there's a leak and it's fixed, and then we can go to wholesale plus 10. That's what we're used to. But I hear you.
I mean, so I can keep covering these bills and come back in 12 months
Well,
and be
so-
like, we have in fact fixed all the leaks.
But the
But then
pool's
we're-
still leaking.
No, it'll be done. I
Well,
mean, we're fixing
yeah.
it. We're getting, as soon as we can get our permit from the city, we will get the new pool that will not be leaking. And
Just one item of clarity.
Where
This
are we on the
account,
permit?
all payments are current, correct?
I'm sorry?
This account is current,
Yes. Yes.
so they've paid historically everything, which we appreciate.
We do appreciate it.
So, yeah, I mean, not only have we not dealt with an active leak in process that hasn't been completed yet as we're reviewing it, but also, I don't know how often we've acted with active litigation in process.
It seems like
it's settled. It's settled.
Oh,
And so
okay.
they gave us a check for $130,000, which is what they said that a comparable pool back in that day would be. And our bid is going to be much more than that.
That's for you to-
cost
There
of
was no
construction.
ask for the
Didn't ask for
damages
water.
the water.
No, and that they were like, this is your offer, 130, take it or leave it, and so we took it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Oh.
this is a hard one.
This is a hard.
So yeah, and I'm okay with there not being an answer now.
I think this is a I just think this requires some more thought. Again, it's a little difficult because we don't have precedent to act on it. I think that there is a desire to be empathetic, but understanding what we can do and what actually makes sense.
I'd also like to hear from our legal representation if the city has a claim
Okay.
or wishes to have a claim. Because one way or another,
No, they don't. I'm pretty positive. The
Oh,
homeowner would have a claim, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Well, unless the city's damages would be if they weren't paying their bill, but then that's
Then
still,
we got a claim
that's
against the
still-
homeowner,
yeah,
not the
yep,
contractor.
I'm not
I
aware.
mean, the contractor runs over your sprinkler, the head spews for a month and a half, and it's gone through your meter, that's not the city's claim. Once it hits through the meter, it's your water, and that's the trouble. That's why we're having trouble trying to fix this, and that there is no claim against the contractor.
Once I appreciate your patience with us, your
So
flexibility.
yeah, so I guess I mean there's two pieces. There's a piece that we did fix,
Right.
And I was told that I couldn't come in here until everything was fixed, but time has been passing and passing.
Yeah.
I wanted to get in here.
Yeah.
And so that's the first piece, is the two pieces that are fixed, and then the other one is the ongoing piece. So I don't know if we can address them separately.
Yeah, again, it's hard looking historically at the usage to try to figure out, even as
How
items
much
are
of it
fixed,
is
there's
which?
still so much,
I'm sorry?
How much of it is which thing?
right,
Yeah.
what percentage is coming from what issue. I might recommend not tabling it, but taking this kind of, well, I guess we can do a subcommittee with,
We can't do executive session or just like us talk?
it would be an Open Meetings Act.
Yeah,
We'd have
that's
to
what I'm
have
thinking.
only one or two people
Yeah.
and the city can do it, so, we can't have all this on.
Why can't we talk here? What are you worried
Well, I
about?
guess the question is how, I mean, I don't know how long, I don't know, I'm not sure I have a thought yet.
Exactly.
And I'm not sure what our options are. But, because how would you could say, well, let's just pick a month, let's pick 3 months, are we gonna adjust 12 months? Again, I don't.
Well, it
there's
might
no
be, I mean, if
precedent
we
for
have
this.
a really detailed timeline of each of the issues and when they were remediated, we might be able to ascertain some differential of ones that were remediated and what savings of water consumption that brought while the other one is still going. So at least that's a piece that we could,
So I
Try and
have the
address.
bills in here, but
Yeah.
put them in a kind of in a timeline format.
yeah, well, I mean, we have the, yeah.
I mean, there are months when the,
It just said, but my thing was, I
Consumption.
didn't understand, it just said, irrigation service, warranty for I wasn't clear, based on the notes of these, like, what would be helpful is to say,
there are.
these are the 4 different things that happened. This is when they were discovered, each one. This is when the sprinkler was discovered. This is when it was remediated.
Okay.
This is when the pool was discovered. We know it's not done. This is when, and if that would be helpful, because it's hard to understand from the notes on these invoices which one is
Right.
which.
Okay, I can do that.
Two quick questions, if I may.
Mhm.
When you moved in, did you redo the house?
Yeah, it was a tear down and it was
Tear
started.
down new
uh-huh.
house, so the history from the old house won't matter. And were you in the house at the time? During all this time, or were you?
Yes, uh-huh.
The only other question I would have is just to clarify, as, this had been brought up, but was, kept being moved because waiting for remediation or leaks or whatever else. So, are we saying that, we'll go back further than 6 months at this time because of that scenario? I'm not sure I'm clear on what that thought was.
Look, it's a good question. There's some language around unusual circumstances. I think, since I'm not exactly sure the big picture here and what we would actually be doing, you may not need to go back prior to the 6 months. I mean, we could look at a period and make an adjustments, and it could be sufficient without, which would in this case would just be a credit to the account going forward. But without some of the data which you were mentioning, which is kind of a bigger picture of just where things happen, I don't know how to address that question.
Well, I don't either,
But I would consider it, given if a good history of this type of work being done, and it seems like it was again kind of just an interesting circumstances.
Yeah, and
If
I do
that
have
is
my
the case,
email
then-
in here that I sent to Carrie on May 9th of 2022, bringing all this up, and I was not advised at the time, since it was still in process, to do any kind of paperwork at that time.
So this is what I was gonna say, that
Uh-huh.
if we're asking you for that clarity of when the things happen, it would be helpful to have the clarity of the communication
Okay.
between y'all and the city,
Mhm.
so that, you know, we can see if someone said, don't come until this time, or you have until this time, or whatever the case may be, which I know is, you know, hard for me to remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, but, you know, hopefully you have some correspondence on that, which
Mhm.
is a guidance to help us understand the time frame.
Okay.
It also gives us the ability to say, this is why we look back
Right.
beyond 6 months.
Right.
And you don't see a lot of the stuff we see, so I completely understand. And it's just like, it's just a big bill, and I've been there before. But some of these months are consistent with just regular bills. I mean, September, $370.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, mine last month was $540, and you know, the 1,000 ones, yeah, maybe, but not all of these are excessive. But you don't know because you don't see other people's bills.
Well, it's also, we don't know because technically they haven't had a month where they haven't had a known
Right.
leak.
Yeah, but if
But
September,
again, so your usage would then be deemed to be fairly low.
you have a
if these-
pool and an irrigation system and how many bathrooms?
We have 5 bathrooms.
Okay.
Yeah. But hopefully our irrigation system is net neutral with our rainwater collection tanks.
I
So-
want one bad.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, good luck finding a contractor that can figure out how to make them
Yeah,
work.
tell me who not to hire.
Right, after reading this, I wouldn't know if I would do it
Yes.
right now. So I guess it's not really a motion. I think we're just saying something. We have to, Ashley, we don't actually have to a motion to say, hey, we're going to wait for some more information, but we're on the record here talking about this.
Not necessarily, it just gives staff some guidelines, so if we need to bring it, you know, do something in the next few months, if we need to know to do something, let us know what that is.
So we're tabling this item,
Yeah.
barring some additional information regarding some of the timelines around the leaks and when they were addressed between the irrigation, the water softener, and then and potentially the pool where that is, and then we can put this on the agenda for discussion on the next meeting or whenever that
So you're gonna
information.
do agenda discussion rather than small sub, or how do you wanna proceed?
Well, that's a good question. Well, so
I mean, best case scenario, we'll start the new construction on the pool this fall or this winter, and there will be months where there is literally no pool, and so that might give us a baseline.
the small subcommittee, I would then say that committee would be responsible for presenting at the next meeting the recommendation essentially back to the commission as opposed to having the resident do, right? Because you would have had all of the discussion questions that we might have had, and then, so either we can do it that way where those discussions are offline. or we
I'm
can-
just asking.
Yeah.
I don't have a horse.
And why don't we get that information, that additional information from the resident, and then we'll sit down, get some ideas together from the staff end, and then who is
That
our
would be
small
good.
group, who are we with our subcommittee? Have y'all decided?
I don't know that we've
yet?
decided
Okay.
even on a subcommittee.
Is this even immediately actionable? Like, to Chris's point, like, I feel like once the pool's fixed, you're gonna wanna see what normal months look like.
It's not gonna, I mean,
Right.
when's the last time the contractor came in on time? You know, we're not, if we wait till history.
Okay, I see.
Yeah,
That's a
I
good
think we're
point.
just
That's a
trying
good
to
point,
keep
to try
some-
to resolve its,
I mean, I'd love to, but
okay.
at least my experience is
Just make it call.
it's gonna be a while. No offense. And I hope not, and I don't wanna jinx it.
Okay.
And I think since we're kind of beyond the scope of normal anyways right now, let's try to handle this, once we have a little bit more information, we'll try to put something together with staff and we can bring it back to the commission.
And it's not
Okay.
that excessive.
Right.
It's
right.
not.
It's just that we don't have the history. That's the missing part. It's
That's
not-
the missing
That's
part.
the missing piece. And so maybe we can put some kind of package together that makes sense and go
Okay.
from there.
Okay. All right,
Thank you very
good.
much.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Appreciate y'all.
All right. Moving on to the next item, which is discussion and possible action on a presentation from Amoresco regarding meter replacements and automated metering infrastructure.
Yes, I'll just do a quick, let me just make sure our thing is working here. So, at long last, This is a presentation about water meters. I know y'all have heard this a few times in different forms, but over the years, as we've been trying to put this project together, we just realized this is not something that we have in staff the capability to roll this entire program out. And you'll see in the program, the presentation coming up in a few minutes, that there are many more things to consider than we would have been able to necessarily on our own. And so we have actually worked with the City Council. They have seen a similar presentation, and they did ask that this was sent to the Utility Commission for y'all's review. So I might let Deval go ahead and give her presentation, and then we can discuss the council's perspective from their last meeting and any questions y'all have. So I will turn it over to Deval Allums with Amoresco for y'all's presentation. And then you can just do the right and left.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to put this just a little bit shorter
Sure.
for my shortness. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you all this evening. Please ask questions. Do not be shy. I just heard 3 very interesting scenarios that you've been through, and I imagine that's not an easy decision no matter how you manage it, right? Information is always key, and I think that's what this project is all about, is getting information in the hands of the citizens and the city to be able to make these kinds of decisions clearer. So, again, my name is Deval Allums. I'm with Amoresco. If you're not familiar with the company, we are a publicly traded company here in the U.S. AMCR is on the New York Stock Exchange. We do not sell any meters or products, so I don't have a horse in that game, as you said. So what we do is we implement and install almost every major technology available in Texas, from software and hardware, and we take responsibility for the entire turnkey project. And that's one of the reasons that we were brought in to have this conversation. So I think this is pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but obviously you all know your infrastructure is aging. You've been trying to upgrade it. You're going in the right direction. You're obviously making the right moves. This may just help you get there faster. Transparency is a big deal right now in every city I've worked with. And I've worked in cities from the Panhandle through the Dallas area, San Antonio area, Houston area. So just about everywhere in Texas, we've got references for you to look at. We'll look at that later as well. Excuse me. So this is just a little bit of history, and bear with me, and if this is stuff that you know, just make me go past it. Don't make me spend time on it if you're already comfortable with it. But one of the challenges with water meter technology is, first of all, it's changed very little in the last 120 years until the last probably 30 years, right? So reading technology has been feet on the street is what I call it. People literally walk from meter box to meter box, clean off that little glass lid and read the meter, right? So that's been the way we've been doing it for decades upon decades. Then the drive-by systems came in, and I think you all are familiar with that. And drive-by simply means you had a laptop in your truck, and there was a radio on the meter, and as you drove by, that radio hit the laptop. And now there's a more sophisticated system called fixed base. Again, this is not new. Fixed base has been available for probably 15 years now. At the residential level, it's been available a lot longer in the other areas, but at the residential availability has been based on the batteries, and the batteries have advanced a lot in the last 20 years, and that's what's made this possible. We'll talk about that in just a minute. The meter technology, the standard meters, the positive displacement and multi-jet, literally have like a nutating disc that turns when you're going in there, the water goes through, and that's how it measures it. But the ultrasonic and the magnetic don't have any moving parts. That's what makes them so much better at accuracy for the long term. And most of these types of meters have an accuracy guarantee of either 15 or 20 years for like 98.5% accuracy all the way through. So those are some of the technologies that we've worked through. And by the way, the ultrasonic and the magnetic technology is not new. That has been used in the industrial application for, what, 50 years? And the difference is the battery. Those meters needed a source of power. And in the industrial application, you have power right there. In a residential application, you don't have power in the pit. And the battery had to come up to speed in order to make that viable.
So, and I don't mean to interrupt, and maybe it's because some of you all haven't been here for the previous time we went through our support of trying to switch to digital meters, which I think almost everyone on the council would be supportive of, which is trying to improve accuracy, minimize the legwork to get readings, and also provide data directly to users.
For the leaks.
Right? Which
Absolutely.
It comes to all of this. It was good timing with all the leak discussions we just had, or phantom leak discussions. So I think the whole city is sold on the concept of needing digital meters
Okay.
with the additional information, the reporting, of course this ties into billing and access and things of that nature. So I guess the question is, and we started we had some digital meters installed with a previous provider.
Yes.
Mine stopped working after 2 years.
I couldn't get the instructions to use mine ever.
Yours is not working. Mine's still working.
They swapped,
works fine.
They swapped mine out because the screen died.
Oh.
So I went back to an analog meter.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, it is. I miss my meter. Which, was very good at informing us when we had an irrigation leak. It was pretty instant. And so, I think the benefits
Are clear.
are
Yeah,
clear.
you don't
So-
you don't have to sell us.
And so it wasn't a matter of selling, I just wanna make sure you
Yeah.
had the data and the information, and you know how all this works and how the data is transmitted and all that. Okay, so I'll just skip all of that. That's what I wanted to know, make me skip stuff.
And I
that-
think one of the, I think
And
we
the,
talked
and
about this.
from customer standpoint, the portal, you understand how the
Yeah,
portal works and all
right,
of that?
right.
Awesome,
Portals, apps, info, reporting, dashboards.
awesome.
Yep.
Bum, bum, bum.
One of the challenges that we had discussed, because this was going to be more widespread, was the burst transmissions, cellular nodes around. The cell service here
We have bad cell
is
service.
terrible,
so-
right? So, but that's solved through, I think, it's not transmitting constantly. What are we have challenges here because of topography and all sorts of things. That just a cellular radio buried underground is not going to necessarily be easily picked up unless you're driving around. So what is there any solution around that? Is there any issues with that we would be considering when we do a widespread deployment as opposed to the one-offs that we have right now?
So to answer your question, is there a solution? Yes. Are there issues? Yes. So it's an honest answer. So what we deal with, and the reason that you will want to do this as a full turnkey is that we will have responsibility for making sure that you get those reads in. So we commit to 98.5% of your meters will read every month across a 3-day, 4-day period. And let me clarify that. So meters are not going to read every single day. Stuff's going to happen. There could be a truck parked over it, somebody puts a garbage can on top of the meter box, whatever. It's not going to read every day, but it's going to store that data. So when you're ready to bill, you'll have that data. And that's part of our guarantee when you do it through the normal guarantee process, which is I think what your staff wanted to do. But there's 2 processes, and I'm going to go through those right now. So solutions and procurement, how do you procure this? How do you make it part of your normal procurement process? So your procurement is 2 different, I'm going to give you 2 different options.
Sorry,
because
can I, just so that I don't,
Yeah.
so I can understand this moving forward. You don't need a cell signal for the meter to read and record. You just need it to transmit.
Correct, absolutely. Yeah, and also there are other technologies, not just cell technology, but you're a small community and self-service is probably the least expensive way to go because you don't have to put up a collecting tower.
And there would be a propagation study.
Yes.
involved in this, correct?
Yeah, and we're absolutely going to go through that.
Who pays for the collecting tower?
I'm sorry.
So it would be our cost to put up an alternative, which is a collecting tower?
Certainly, yes. So we would give you the cost of the entire project together. It wouldn't be piecemeal, and there wouldn't be any change orders. That's kind of where I'm getting to with this. So there's 2 processes that we discussed with council last time, and they wanted to make sure that the commission had a chance to review those 2 options and pick which one worked best for your environment. The first one was the one that we actually presented to the city council meeting, and that's Local Government Code 302. And if you're not familiar with 302, it's been available for almost 40 years now. It was enabled in the 80s with the Texas legislation to allow cities to implement complex capital-intensive projects like this and put them in under one procurement so that you could get all of, it would be a true turnkey, right? So you could get the design, the implementation, the data integration, the software, software additions, as well as the final guarantee on the accuracy of the meters for the life of the contract. So if you did this contract for 10 years or 12 years, we would have to guarantee the accuracy of those meters for that full term. So that's this process. That's Local Government Code 302. You would procure us through a co-op. You already are members of PCA, and that they have done a competitive RFQ process and received, I think, 12 different bids, and it's all on their website, all the grading and everything and how they selected us. They haven't just selected us, there are others on their website as well. I think staff looked at all of the different options and they called a lot of our references, and that's why we're here. So when you do that, you would sign something called a project development agreement. And the project development agreement, and this is where council got a little hooked up, because the project development agreement tells us, okay, we want Ameresco to develop this project. Go out in the field, look at the meters, look at the pits, what shape is it in, do the propagation study, make sure we have read rates that are consistent with what we need for our billing purposes, find out how the software works, make sure we can get all the equipment on time, what are the lead times on the meter that we like, is it doable? Or should we be selecting a different technology? Because as you know, lead times on meters have been a big challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I had one city make a totally different technology decision because the lead times on the meter that they originally wanted were going to be upwards of 48 weeks. So things to consider. Those are the kinds of things that we bring to the table on that. So that would be part of the project development agreement. The project development agreement has a walkaway fee because we're not in the business of doing studies. We're not here to do a $200,000 engineering study. This is basically $45,000, and if you don't go forward with the actual project, which is what we want to do, a turnkey project, then you would give us $45,000 and we would walk away. If you go forward with the project, that agreement gets torn up and you get a full price for what the project actually is. Okay? Understood? So part of what we do in the project development agreement is meter testing. We'll take about between 50 and 68 meters out of the ground. We'll send them to a third party to get tested. No bucket tests. These are actual bench tests, AWWA standards. You'll get low, medium, and high volume testing on all of them. And that way you'll have actual data of where your meters are and where your water losses could be. Some cities use this data to offset the cost of the project. So, and I think you know the folks over in Mesquite, talk to them. So their meters weren't testing all that great, especially their large meters, but that's not relevant here. But they actually used the monies that they would recover from the loss in unaccounted for water to help offset the cost of the project. One way to do it. The detailed investment also looks at your whole database. I have yet to work with a city, and I've been doing this 16 years. I have yet to work with a city where the database was perfect. So there's always accounts that are duplicates, or ones that left that didn't get dropped, or that are not functioning right now that get included. There's all kinds of things happening, especially when you're in a situation where you're tearing down old houses and building new ones. So the database can get cleaned up in that process as well, making sure you have the right meter and radio number associated with account number cleanly. And you know what date it was installed, you know what the technology was, all that should be in the database. Most people haven't tracked all that through the years. So that's a nice benefit for staff. Yes, sir.
Question. Why are we testing all the old meters if you're going to replace them with new radio controlled meters?
And that was the question you all had earlier, right? And so you don't have to go this route. We test them so that you have an idea of what your potential water losses have been as a city. It gives you some good data that says, okay, our meters are testing at 93%. We are potentially losing 7% of our water for no good reason. It doesn't include water that's being lost on main lines or anything like that. This is just from the meter. Okay? So So once we do the project development agreement and you all decide that, yes, I wanna move forward, then we would actually get into a contract with the actual price and the full scope. And when we do that, our scope is on us. In other words, the only reason you would get a change order is if you changed the scope. So I have a city right now, City of Conroe added 1,000 new meters and a new collector because they have a whole new development going in. That's a change order. But if we have to fix a box lid or replace a box because it's broken when we got to it, or we have to dig out extra dirt, and digging out here is a challenge. And so if we misjudge some of that, we still have to cover that. Ours is a turnkey project, true turnkey. Okay? And then the guarantee phase, and this is all part of Local Government Code 302. The guarantee phase says typically in year 3, but you can choose year 5, but the legislation requires that in the first 5 years of the contract that we come back out and retest some of the meters that are in the ground to ensure that they are at 98.5% accurate or better. So you do get that guarantee that they will be that accurate. And they will be functioning. They won't go on.
So, and not to interrupt in the middle, but the meters themselves, since again, you're installing someone else's product, those products come with their own
Warranty.
warranties and
Yes, they
coverages
do.
and their own guarantees, right? So,
They don't come with guarantees, they come with warranties.
okay.
Yeah, they do, absolutely. So most of the meters have some kind of warranty, and a lot of these ultrasonics will have a solid 15 or 20-year warranty on that. The battery will be a 10-year full and a 10-year prorated. Some of them have 15-year full, depending on the technology.
And is these latest meters from being installed, being tested, I mean, I don't know if this type of meter has been in the ground for 10 years or 15 years, where you can say, we know generally every 10 years you're gonna swipe these out, or if this is a new meter, it lasts 10 years, and then 6 years in, you know, we're replacing them all. How do we know are these truly tested products, or is this the newest stuff kind of thing?
So it depends on what technology you choose. Right now you're with Master Meter? Badger, I'm sorry, you're with Badger. And Badger's had their product out for quite some time. I don't think it's been 10 years, but yeah, they've had their product out for some time. And we've installed Badger in several locations. I can't honestly say 100%
Sure.
you won't have any problems with it, but that's what the warranty is there for.
That's your headache.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
that's
what
what.
we're paying for.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And that's why it's there.
I meant that in all the nicest way
Oh,
possible.
no. I want you to have that. I want you to have that because our process takes the risk off of you and puts the risk on us. That's what Local Government Code 302 does. The second process is a direct process, which is just you select, I mean, you're not even selecting us at this point. You're just saying, DeVal, bring us a proposal. And then if we like the proposal, we'll select you off of the PCA contract to implement it. And it is just like a construction contract, really. It's called an Engineer Procure Construct, EPC contract. And it's just straight construction contract. And we're happy to do that as well. Any questions on that?
The elements of the 302 with regard to testing, implementation, guarantee, that could all be built into the contract, or are you saying those would not be included at all in a traditional construction contract?
They would not be in the construction contract, the direct construction contract, but we would still do the firm fixed price. We would not do change orders in this scenario either, because we are gonna spend some time getting the scope right. We are gonna take a couple of months to physically put eyes on your meters, put eyes on your boxes and lids, see what shape they're all in, see how much dirt is in the boxes that we have to dig out in order to get this done, how are locations set, do we have access, all those things. We'll pull your meter database to make sure of what shape it's in. So we're still gonna have to do a lot of the same work, we're just not going to do the testing and the guarantee work.
And,
So-
sorry, please, go ahead. So then it comes down to, we would be managing the warranties with the OEM through Crossroads as an example, or would it be?
Probably
Or through staff,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So an issue comes up, we take a look, we look at our contract, we call Badger, they're gonna try to replace it.
So-
Technically be our headache.
Yeah, so what you wanna do is, it's a process that I tell every city to put in place. If a meter is not reading for 4 days straight, create a work order. Have one of your meter technicians, your staff, Public Works, go out there and see what shape that meter's in. Is it just a matter of retapping it to make it start reading again? Is the battery dead? Which happens, by the way. You know, the batteries are not going to be as reliable. So that battery has a 10-year full and 10-year prorated. Take it out, send it back, they send you a new one, put it in.
So, I know much is dependent upon so many variables, including, you know, which technology is used and so forth and so on. But can you give me some perspective in cost differentials between the two applications on average? You know, is the fully managed 3x, 4x, 7x?
No. So when you say fully managed, I want to make sure I said the right
The first
explanation.
proposal.
one.
The first proposal is not fully managed. You're still going to have your staff looking at a meter if it doesn't read for 4 days. You're still going to send it off for warranty. What we're doing is coming back and testing it to make sure that the system is working right. And if you're having major problems, we help you navigate with the vendor as well. So we had that happen, my partner Chad and I had that happen in Rosenberg like 8 years ago, where there was an issue with the manufacturing of one of the meters. When we came back and tested, instead of 98.5, it tested at 98.2. And so we ended up doing a lot of research and finding out that there was a manufacturing issue. And we helped them get through that. So, but day to day, you're going to be managing your system in both. Regarding the cost is identical. The only difference is the ongoing testing cost and the first walkaway fee are the only additions to the 302 versus this process. And I think the feedback from some of council at the time was, well, we already know our meters are not all that accurate. I need to do this project regardless.
Yep.
Let's just move forward without having to go through the project development agreement. That was kind of the,
Yeah.
Quick question, Councilmember McDuffie.
Yes.
What is the question we're being asked to answer tonight? What did you pitch to us or ask about?
I think council wanted to put this before you for a recommendation.
which process?
Which process,
So,
but also
us
are
picking
you
these two.
interested, do you think this is something that council should consider moving forward with?
Gotcha.
I mean, you're utility commission, we want to run things by that are utility related to the utility.
And we appreciate it very much.
Yes.
All right?
For a matter of perspective, ma'am, if you would, what do most cities do of our size? And who's had success with what and who's failed with what?
So from your size, it's just easier to go direct. I would agree with that. I think that's simpler and more straightforward, and you don't have that many meters. I don't know that you need to test them. If you do, I'm great. I'm happy to do it. I do the 302 in most cities, but more and more cities are now choosing this option. I have, most of my references are with local government code 302 option.
Okay.
Does staff have any input as to the difference it makes for our city?
So I think the main, like you said, the council's main kind of question was, why are we testing? So we were interested in getting that data, if the city was going to be able to use it in any way. It would also produce a lot of data for if we wanted to do a rate study down the line. We would have pulled all the information we needed from that system, so we would have had a little bit of a before and after. And then the guarantee, of course, would be great that they could come back in a few years and make sure that everything is working how it was supposed to be. I tend to agree that we're small enough that hopefully that's not a big issue, and if we don't get to do that afterwards testing, I think we could probably still handle them on a one-by-one basis as issues come up. So I don't think staff really has a huge preference.
Ashley, if you don't mind.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh. Whoa, that was loud. That was me. I touched this.
Oh.
That was me. Maybe I shouldn't have. That was
Hopefully no one was watching the stream because I just made a face.
Wow.
Would you need to add staff for this, or expertise, or outside?
No,
Oh.
I don't think so. Currently, we have 1 to 2 members at a time, Public Works Department, who read for about a day and a half, 2 days. So I think just the free time that they would
save from having to do that once a month would free up a lot of time for other things, as well as to be able to deal with any issues that rise.
How many meters, electronic meters do we have in the ground right now?
I think we have 15 maybe. We did a 10, it was a 10 or a 15 test, and we might have added a couple since then, but the issue was
14.
we couldn't get, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
50 years away.
Yeah, that's right, not anymore. But yeah, so, and as you've seen, it was harder for us to get those on a one-off basis. So for a while they were just, we couldn't get any of them, and then it was, well, if you order only one or two, the price is much higher than if you were order in bulk, so that's why we hadn't purchased anymore.
And it also makes it much harder on utility billing when you have some coming in this way and others coming in this way, and
Sure.
you're manually reconciling for billing.
Right, and we don't have the software either, so we, until we were gonna have a certain amount of them in the ground, we weren't gonna purchase that software that would read them, so even those ones that are in the ground right now, we're manually reading, every month. They are sending info to the apps and in that way, but we don't have access to that because that was through AWR, our previous, help.
The detailed analysis basically on the status of all the accounts and all of the users. We went through that process, or you went through that process when we brought all the billing in-house, and so just again, I think we have a pretty good fix on that today. Obviously, things are changing, right?
Sure.
As far as we kind of did that project, right,
Mhm.
which was cleaning up all of the accounts, all of the duplicates, all of the inactives.
Yeah, though it was a manual process, so every single one had to get hand entered when we switched over, and so to this day we still find things that have, you know, small errors or something was coded slightly incorrectly, and we catch those. And I really tend to think that we are going to have a perfect database when you get in there, because I think Veronica's done a really good job. However, still issues from the hand entering of all of those. So, but I think we think it's very accurate, but it would be great to know that for sure.
Okay.
So just some of the deliverables, I think we've kind of gone through these already. The first one doesn't really apply to you, but when you asked me why some cities would choose one or the other, I'm working with a couple of cities right now where they did not know what technology they wanted. You guys are pretty good about that already, and we help them evaluate 2 to 3 different technologies and the cost, life cycle cost of those technologies, not just the upfront cost of those technologies. And we've put them all in, so we kind of have the good, bad, and the ugly, if you will, of these different technologies. So that's always a big deal for those that want to go the full local government code 302 route. That usually has a portion of that in there. Even the smaller cities that don't really know what technology they want. So right now we're working with a small city called Haskell. That's about an hour near Abilene. And they didn't know what technology they wanted to go with, and they didn't have all that figured out. So they chose the local government code 302 process to have that extra expertise brought to the table for them. Turnkey, firm fixed. That's the big deal. That really is. That's one of the big deals that we bring to the table. We take the risk during construction, and we take the time before construction to take a look at your processes and your whole environment before we do that. We minimize the day-to-day disruptions to your staff, but they will have to be involved for locates. Some things are going to be behind gates or in the back, and we can't locate them, so return to utilities will happen. We will also have an on-site project manager, and that's something that we do differently. We don't rely on the subcontractor to manage the project. It is an Amoresco employee always, always. And that's important because that's who's taking on the risk. So we manage all of that personally. An accurate, complete scope of work. Typically when you go out for an RFP or something like that, you have to write the scope of work, and things like gaskets and shut-off valves and things like that get left off. Well, those are all change orders. So, and even breaking a pipe. So if I break a pipe while I'm installing a meter, which by the way I will, our team will, but within a 2-foot radius of the meter, we cover it. We fix that pipe and we make it whole. And so a lot of that is part of the turnkey process. You probably don't need this.
So I'm sorry, I just on that previous slide,
Yeah.
you used the word construction. And this is obviously a little early because we would expect to be reviewing what a complete scope of work would actually cover.
Yeah.
But in my mind, we're swapping out 600 meters. So what, other than that, the existing infrastructure, is there going to be changes aside from putting in new meters as part of this,
Not
or we
if-
don't know yet?
Not if your propagation study shows that all your meters are able to read with the radio system, with the cellular system. If they can read with the cellular system, I'm not putting in any towers or collection points. It's gonna work off your cellular environment, and you'll have the ongoing costs on cellular, like you do with your cell phones. But construction is construction. You are digging out a meter, you're on somebody's property, you're shutting off their water to their house, and so a lot can go wrong in that process.
Tearing up their bush,
Yeah.
messing with their driveway.
I mean,
the
stuff's
whole
gonna
thing.
happen. Stuff is going to happen, and we're gonna have to fix it.
Well, that's my separate other question, maybe it's best to you, council member, and that is, or to staff, in what order? Because we're currently doing studies on other parts of our water system. And so surely the meters would come after we did some of those?
Typically, they don't, but that's up to you all. I don't wanna.
I mean, would the connections they'd all have to be redone again?
So part of what's happening right now with a lot of cities is that you do have to provide an EPA analysis of what kind of pipe you have in front of and behind the meter, right? So you're aware of that? Yes?
I am now.
We need to link that to the
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, we're aware, I just
Okay.
didn't know.
So, do you want an explanation or no?
Sure.
Sure?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm like, yes, no. So there's an EPA requirement that all cities have to have an analysis of their piping system. Do they have iron, PVC, some of my cities still have concrete. I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff, and you have to show what kind of piping you have in front of and behind the meter. And that first step on pipe typing is done as part of the meter installation. So typically cities are doing it now because that's due October of '24. So most of my cities are doing it now as part of their water meter change-out projects. We're doing it before and after that. Yes?
And if parts of the city change piping?
So that's a whole different thing. So, and you're absolutely right. You are going to have to look at your whole system somewhere along the way, because that's just part of maintaining a water distribution system. And you may change out the line leading into that whole neighborhood. That doesn't affect what you did at the meter and the accuracy of that meter. It won't change. So the meter project helps whether you do it before or after. I leave it up to the city how it's best for you.
That answers my question.
So I'm gonna skip this because this is part of all the stuff that we look at when we're designing the scope. We do look at account list, consumption histories, see if there's any anomalies, and we also share with you all the staffing plan of what you need going forward, because you guys have already done a good job of understanding what you need forward. You've been very proactive on that. Some cities have not. So reviewing the data, duplicate accounts, zero reads, what happens with zero reads, data anomalies, monthly consumption comparisons, a lot of what you've been talking about tonight. Field study, it's just examples of what we find in the field. Your boxes may not be this gnarly, but some are. And if a lid needs to be replaced or if a box needs to be replaced, we do it on the fly. We don't sit there and say, okay, do we do this or don't we do this? It's broken, we replace it. So boxes, lids, curb stops, valves, pipes, pipe typing, all of that is included. And these are some of our experiences here in Texas. And I am involved in every single one of these except Seymour and Wichita Falls. It was another rep on that. Oh, and Navasota, sorry. easy, fast, and fun.
What is the typical cost of a project per meter?
Boy, that's a loaded question. So that varies dramatically. I have had some cities where it's been as low as like $580, $600 a meter, and having to say it by meter is just such a wrong thing to say because there's so much that goes into the meter. It could be the box, it could be the lid, it could be the valve, all of that. And then I've had them as high as 1,000 per meter.
And what does the ongoing cost look like?
The ongoing costs,
Yeah.
so the ongoing costs are going to depend on, well, you already have your meter technology selected. So your ongoing costs are going to be what Badger charges per meter per month for cellular. So that's going to be an ongoing cost, and we'll itemize that in our proposal. We'll make sure you know what your life cycle costs are going to be. We can't predict what they'll be after the first few years, but you'll know that they're gonna increase. Also, your utility billing system is gonna charge more because you're going AMI, so we'll tell you that as well. And if you get a customer portal, the customer portal has a fee for cloud-based management, and we'll show you that as well.
What does the range of all that look like?
15 to 30,000 a year. And what you choose. Yeah, those are good questions.
Any other questions? So again, just to reiterate, what was been asked of us is to look at the two options for getting a proposal. Is that the way
Yeah.
to think about it?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I mean, how do you want to move forward? Do you want to move forward with Local Government Code 302, or do you want to go forward with engineer, procure, construct, contract, direct?
And it's a recommendation.
Right.
Yeah, you're not
A
selecting.
recommended, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, so.
All we do is recommend things.
Just to be clear, just trying to take the heat
Nobody
off.
voted for me.
Trying to take the heat off a little bit.
I think we were 2 years ago, we were ready to go forward with engineer and
Right.
construction.
That's right. We were
So-
blindly recommending anything to get a digital
We
meter.
thought this was important to go forward.
Yeah, I think again, there's support for this project. It's just a matter of the pathway.
One question I have that could impact thoughts is, this cost, will this be entirely, not the ongoing annual increase in cellular perhaps, et cetera, but this will be part of the bond that we passed? This will be part of an operating budget, or we put in our sewers in Rollingwood a very long time ago that everybody still pays for?
Right.
How does this get paid?
So this would be the one large firm fixed price, and the city has options for how we'd want to pay for that. So we would be able to finance these. We'd be able to do like a lease purchase option where.
It's like a tax net lease.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that might have you explain
Yeah.
that. That'd be great.
So it's up to the city how you want to finance it, because I don't get anything out of the financing. You have to work with your financial advisor what's best for you. But a lot of cities, especially on something this small, will just do a tax exempt lease and do that for 10 years and pay it, or do it for less, depending on how your monthly situation is. And that's the other reason some people wanted to go the traditional route of Local Government Code 302, because some of the revenue increases can help offset the cost of that payment. It just depends on how you want to handle that. But it's just really clean and simple to do a tax exempt lease.
And this might be something too that we would maybe reevaluate our policy, because we do currently have the electronic meter policy where if they were to get over the three-quarter inch, I think is the average. So anything above that, they would pay the difference in that meter cost. So we might be able to figure out some way to apply that across the board, but it might mean coming back and taking a look at it again. But we think spread over a 10 or 15-year amount, it wouldn't be any more than we currently budget for meter replacements of mechanical meters. So we think even if it got deployed this fiscal year, this coming one, we would actually have enough in the budget to cover a payment of a 10th or a 15th of what we need.
And that covers the life cycle of the copper.
So again, I think for clarity between the two pathways, the actual project scope, cost, the services covered, I wanna make sure I say services versus things like a guarantee, would be the same. The project would be the same. Number of meters installed, how they're installing it, when they're installing it, what they do as part of the construction, what they don't cover, would be the same between the two. One provides some additional testing following construction to confirm it works. It also has I'll use the word significantly, but we'll just say there is more work, upfront work, that we say may not be necessary because of, one, our position, two, some things we've done. One, we all think all the meters need to be removed. Two, we've done some work on our accounts, so maybe not all of that upfront work needs to be done. The risk there is that you have a walkaway fee, if we determine that process, we didn't like the proposal, we didn't think the scope was sufficient enough, the cost was too high, and so now we're having a cost benefit between this risk of a walkaway fee, where there's some services or analysis or reports that we may not think are necessary, versus let's just get a bid. It's going to cover the same amount of work, and if we don't like it, we don't like it. So, any thoughts about which way you
I
want to
think you accurately summarized where we are.
Yeah, so do you want a motion then?
Please.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we go for the bid.
The co-op selection according to the process. Is that what we're calling it?
No,
Just-
it's
The
a
direct proposal.
Direct proposal.
direct proposal, yeah.
Okay.
So,
There's a motion to recommend to the council going with a direct proposal option versus the government 302 option.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? All abstained?
I'm abstaining.
One abstainer. E. Motion passes. We're recommending to the council that we go with the direct proposal. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Moving on to adjournment. Yeah, thank you.
okay.
Can we ask any questions of that we might discuss in a future meeting?
Sure, absolutely. Apologies.
Yeah, no worries.
Things to put on the agenda for future discussion.
Yeah, curious update on Google Fiber
Okay.
situation.
Go to the next one.
Update on the water line improvement projects and things that we are doing. Do we generally go over the water report every year or only when there's an issue?
Generally only when requested, but we can.
I don't know how anyone feels about going over the water report.
Is it like
It's
quality
the
report?
annual
Yeah.
water quality.
Yeah, it's worth looking at.
The 2022 report is on our website if y'all wanted to check that out, and then if there was a request to put it on as an item next month, we can do that.
We absolutely
Sure.
can do it.
Cool.
Okay. I'll say adjourn again, just so we can.